Sending data. Doing it on one.
Oh, you're good.
Double check YouTube just to make sure it sounds good.
Well, presuming this is all okay. Hello, welcome back.
Hello.
So we were thinking of a Valentine's theme today, and then thought, nah, who needs it? Maybe next week, when, as Graham pointed out, the flowers will be cheaper. Always the romantic.
Of course I was going to figure that out.
So, yeah, tonight I was going to go with a bit of a Satsuma theme. And I'm still not 100% sure about this setup. If I measure it, it's pretty much square. But that's okay, that gives me a bit of extra room for... So it's going to be quite small, but I'm okay with that. Excuse me, I've been eating.
How are we today then, James?
Yeah, it's good, thanks. Had a nice afternoon visiting an art group, doing a little critique and sort of chatting about making pictures and stuff. So that's always good. Yeah, and I've got a few little things in the pipeline as well. So got stuff to do, which is good. I need to be kept busy, otherwise I get myself into trouble.
Can't be having that now, can we?
Not quite. Ooh. So I've got quite a small panel I'm working on. They're fairly smooth. They've been primed with Michael Harding's non-absorbent primer, which is absolute godsend. I've been using that for quite a long time now. He started making it in colours eventually. It's probably been a few years he's been doing that, but for quite a while we could only get white. But yeah, with a little oil wash, which is now, well, will have gone off now, so that's all good. So you can see the marks a bit more when you're working on a panel, so you haven't got the canvas texture to overcome. So you can use thinner paint, and the marks are still sort of visible, and the texture from the marks is a bit more visible. So you don't have to paint too thickly. Canvas texture can be a bit much. If you don't size the canvas enough and there's too much texture there, then it can sort of overcome any expressiveness in your brush marks. I'm going to rotate this ever so slightly. See, what's really tricky here is I want this back Satsuma to be half light, half shadow. So if I bring that forwards like that and tuck this in and have a reflected orange shadow from, so I'll point it out. So this one's quite near the foreground, so the light's actually further behind it, so I've got a big area of dark. This one is reflecting onto the side of the bag, and this one at the back here is half shadow and then a bit of light. So we should get some fun colour temperature changes. I've got an accent light which is green, which if I Turn that around. You can see that, and you can see the greenness possibly in the shadow there. Now I've got a slightly different angle on this. Yeah, now the gap between the bag and the shadow on the back wall has changed too much, so I'll bring those back here like this. Maybe leave that one where it is, I don't know. Oh, crikey. My knees are giving up on me. Yeah.
Oh gosh, sorry.
Right, you can, at least it's all working.
Yep. My bad.
Can't get the star.
Oh no, terrible. Just click buttons and it happens.
Yeah.
Josie says hello.
Hi Josie. Lovely to have you along. There we are. So I'm just going to get on with it now. Because I've got this mid-tone on here, I could work with dark, I could work with light. So I will show you. I've still got a palette from yesterday, so I had a crack at this yesterday, and I'll show you what I did. Different setup, but still that familiar Satsuma theme. That's yesterday's effort, and yeah, it's a bit of fun having a bit of a muck about.
Is there a sort of fascination that you have with Satsumas or oranges?
It's a colour challenge. It's looking a lot redder on the monitor than. Oh, it's a yellower on that one, isn't it? Weird. So yeah, you can see how the brush marks sort of show up a bit more on the panel. And there was another thing I was going to say. I can't remember what it was now. Oh yeah, anyway, so I'm continuing from that palette, and yeah. Yes, and that one I started with lights. I did film it, so I will be making a few videos of these. They probably won't be time lapse. I'm going to try a few edited, sort of 15-minute videos of a process with me talking through it. We'll see what happens with that. Okay. I'm still kind of in dither mode, which is necessary for a bit. So the only colour I haven't got in that painting that I've got in this one is this blue. So I'm going to mix a bit of that. I'm going to pop it over here. And that's way too green, isn't it? Yeah, that needs steering back a little bit. I'll actually put a little bit of magenta in it. Just to pull it away from the green a bit. It will lower the chroma, but that's okay. It gives me some room to go back in. And this doesn't have to be perfect first time. Give me somewhere to go with it. And, what else did I do? I had this nice greeny colour for the background. I think I'll reuse that. This sort of creamy colour for the lights. The other thing I've got is this slightly greeny colour for the background. Again, there's not enough paint here. But for a quick sort of scrubbing in of shapes with a bit of thinners, it'll be fine. And it won't have to be the finished surface. So I might do a bit of that first. Let's do some of the negative shapes. That brush. that is going to be proper foreground and here, and then I'm going to have this other one about there, maybe even further over, maybe near the edge. That's going to all get darker. So what have I got? Something like this. Do a bit of measuring. If I can measure my canvas in Satsumas, then.
Very American way of measuring stuff.
Yeah.
Using anything other than the metric system.
2 3/4, that's about right. Which means this is about in the right place. Which means this is going to finish up here somewhere. Oh, probably needs to be higher up. That's going to be the edge of a bag. It's going to take me to about there. I have a shape a bit like this. That will be the other side of a bag. Am I going to run out of room at the top? Probably not. That'll be about there. That'll be about the top of the bag. Is that a bit of a squeeze? Let's put some of this blue on. I'm just going to make that a bit duller. So very quickly just sort of splash in some shapes. It'll be something like that. Ooh. So I'm already making a few discoveries about where some of these shadows are going to go. There. What's this doing? Doesn't know. There's a bit. And then that's only going to come down level with the bag. It's going to be like this.
I should say, if the flickering of the camera in the top right hand corner is getting annoying, then just mention it and I'll disconnect it, because it's quite a sort of flashy thing that's going on.
Is it flashing badly? It's just a flicker occasionally, isn't it? Maybe it's not so bad when I'm looking at it. Okay. Okay, a bit darker in there. So I'll bring some light back in there afterwards. So you can see how little paint was necessary to sort of mark out some of those shapes. I'll do a slightly lighter one here. What else have I got? Oh yeah, so I've got some of this greeny background colour. Don't know if that will work here. I guess it should. That's going to be shadow. This is only going to be a little flick there. So I can scrub some of that in, and again, it's the same brush. I'm not being too fussy about it. Mostly thinking about lights and darks and what makes the image work. There we go. And
Does it not matter with paintbrushes that you kind of go the same way when you're sort of painting? Because like there, you're kind of like brushing in, and you're going back and forth, back and forth.
I'm scrubbing, so I'm pushing into the surface a little bit,
Right.
but I'm not completely squashing the brush.
Okay.
It just opens it up, and that means that you can see how the bristles can sort of move around on the surface. It's probably not ideal for it, but it will go back into shape as long as you're not like actually scrunching it. It's just
a way of getting colour onto the canvas.
Yeah,
and getting good coverage for it.
Well, it's avoiding any kind of marks at all, really, which is a only way of dealing with it. Right, let me go back in here. There's a bit of that background colour. Do I need some more of that? I think I probably do. Well, I think I found my greeny colour now. That's not dark enough. Maybe that'll get lighter here. So again, yeah, just sort of playing around really. It's going to get a lot lighter that side. So there's these little tonal relationships going together. What haven't I done? I haven't done the orange. Now the orange, I'm going to start off with the dark one. And I've got a bit of that left over from yesterday. I'm going to have to put some more paint out, but this isn't a bad way to start it. Okay, so I've got some sort of shapes around there. See if that works. And I've got a bit here. Oh yeah, that was it. A little bit on the top. The last thing I haven't got is this shadow colour back here. This is interesting. I've got this green left over from yesterday. I'm going to put that in as a placeholder because it's a nice colour to come through, and I can darken that bit by bit as I go along. Oh, that's quite fun. Where else am I going to need that?
That's quite nice. I've got some validation here, James, which is brilliant. Josie's just said, that was a good question, Graham. I'm never sure with putting paint on, when I'm putting paint on, the strokes to use, even though I know James has talked about it in class. I asked a relevant question. I am happy.
Yes, you sure did. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Hang on, I'll see if I can find you a badge.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's no such thing.
Not in this classroom, anyway.
No. Yeah, it's a funny one. I think the thing is there's no rules about that. I think it's a personal thing. You respond to the marks you're making. So at the moment, this is very non-committal. It's like I'm not making any marks. I'm just sort of smudging some paint in. And I'm just looking at colour relationships at the moment. Is that too pale? I think that might be too pale. There we are. And so I'm reacting to how the colours sit together. And I'm avoiding any details. There are little details I would be able to put in, but it's not time for them yet. I'm still on 2 brushes. I'm going to add a third now So now I can add some of my sort of yellowy light. That's too yellow. And borrow a little bit of that blue, which is going to make it greeny slightly, but yeah, a bit more neutral. I can hint at some of the little shapes that are going to turn up. I'm going to keep that edge soft. Yeah. Put in a few of these sort of bits and pieces. Oh, what am I doing? Make my mind up about this edge. So I just knocked the camera. It's a bit close. Smudge a little bit of that light into here. Once I'm pretty comfortable with the lights and the colours, it's going to be in the wrong place. It's going to be up here somewhere. Then I can really start to, yeah, sort of chuck some actual colours in. But I'm not that comfortable with it yet. So I've got this rather dull orange, but it'll do to, there's lumps on here, to deal with them later on.
So a very early initial stage of doing painting is all about the colour contrast between.
In this instance, that's what I'm focusing on. Now, an interesting thing has just happened. Did you spot it? I think this canvas needs to brighten up a bit. We'll have a little look at that. It doesn't look that dark.
So what happened there?
This orange and that grey, okay, tonally very similar, but in the actual image, this is much lighter. So that's got quite a little journey to go on. But this is just a placeholder orange. It's got to get much brighter and much yellower.
And when you say placeholder, that's just, you know, it's orange and
yeah,
you're putting it on the canvas so that you can see where it's
underpainting, and this is painting over which a brighter orange can arrive later. So I'm working dull to bright, and that's quite important with the orange, I think. Possibly less important with other colours.
Is that a normal way to paint from?
Yeah, because it means, well, no, it's not. It's dull to bright.
Dull to bright.
Yes. So here I'm putting in some orange in the reflections, and I'm just using the same colour. Now, when it comes to brightening up the reflections, I probably won't bother. But at the same time, I will, when I'm brightening up the actual Satsumas themselves. That is something that will happen. Also, the shapes aren't spot on, but that's a painting now. It's a clumsy painting, but it's a painting. And I've got some colours on the palette that I was using, and I've just done some little experiments with the blue. So now when it comes to mixing some colour, I'll have a pretty good idea of what I want and how to get it. So I'll tell you one thing I will do very quickly.
It's very exacting the way that you laid down your brushes then.
Yeah, well, it's got paint on them. Right, I'm just going to quick look at this. What is?
So that's what it's actually looking like.
That's a bit better, isn't it? That's a bit more like what I'm seeing. Much better. Okay, I can take a moment with this now. So I've got a context on on the canvas now that I can sort of react to, and really just do in sections. I do quite like this green, but that's going to have to be darkened. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to put some more paint out. There's a few different colours I'm going to need.
Urea trolley.
I know. Convenient, isn't it? Oh, I've got some gloves. Might put them on. So I might put them on now before I squeeze paint out. Okay, what am I going to need? Do I need any unbleached titanium white? I don't think I will. I'll keep it handy just in case. I'm going to want some more raw umber. I'll do a bit of a palette cleaning as I go. Just try and keep the lumps to a minimum. Same with the blue. Can I save any of the green? Oh yeah, a little bit. Okay. All right. Put some raw umber out. Yellow. I probably will need a little bit more. Hang on, what's this?
I'm still fascinated by like the paints that you choose and you use. I think it's just one of those things that you get more accustomed with over time, and when you use them and things like that.
There's a lot of it is familiarity. You know different pigments are going to do particular things, and you get used to using them in particular ways. Ultramarine, that's probably way more than I needed, but I will use it. Oh, I've got paints on the other palette I could have nicked from, but
If somebody was starting out, what would you say is like the core sort of colours to get a hold of?
That is also a good question. You want a bright primary of each colour. And then when you start adding to your colours, you want a warm and a cool for each colour. So, for example, the red I just put out is cadmium red. That's a nice bright primary. It's not going to make particularly good purples because it's got, or particularly strong purples, which isn't generally a problem because most of the time you don't want strong. It will grey a bit because it's got a yellow content. So it's like putting yellow in your purple, and that's not always what you want. You get a similar thing. Ultramarine doesn't make very bright greens, but green usually goes way brighter than you need it to be. So a warm palette with a cadmium yellow and a cadmium red works pretty well because that will give you the brightest orange you can mix, and that still isn't a bright enough orange, as we're going to discover as we continue. So
you said it's what's the word?
cadmium.
Cadmium.
It's a heavy
so you
metal.
can have a. Oh, okay. That was going to be my next question. What is cadmium? But you can.
It's an element.
Right.
You remember chemistry? No, of course you don't. Otherwise you wouldn't be asking me what cadmium is.
I make brown water for a living. Of course I do.
Yeah, so cadmium yellow is a warm yellow. Lemon yellow is a cool yellow by comparison. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So color temperature is an interesting thing. These are all cool colors with these warm colors in between them, and the warm colors are going to leak into the cool colors in reflected color into here, in reflected color into here. But really they're mostly contained within the Satsumas. The Satsumas are going to look more orange because they're in this cool temperature range. So yes, so that's the simple answer. Mm-hmm. So you need a bright thing. If all of your primary colours are not represented, you're gonna, and I see it happen all the time. Right, people are trying to mix a colour, and they're trying to mix a sort of a, like maybe like a dull bluey or purpley colour, and they haven't put any yellow on the palette because they go, well, what's yellow got to do with it? And so they just keep moving between red and blue, and nowhere in between there is the colour they want because it needs a bit of yellow in it because to dull it down. And until you put it in, you don't see how it would work. So it's a completely understandable mistake to make. Similarly with an orange, if your orange is too bright, what do? Put more yellow in it, put more red in it, put more white in it. What if you want it to be less orange and darker? Well, blue is the answer. Right. If you're mixing oranges, you'd quite happily not put blue on your palette. This happens all the time. So you need your 3 primaries, and then you can add to those. So
3 primaries, and then a warmer and a cooler version of each of those primaries.
Yeah. Some earth colours help because a lot of the time you'll be mixing dull colours, and you don't want to be using expensive paints to do that. I use a lot of raw umber, really useful, especially for sort of pushing values down. And it's not as orange as burnt umber. So you can always add red to it if you need to. Yeah. There you are. I think that answers that question.
Thank you.
I was going to mix. Yes. So I've got this green, and I need a darker version of that. So I'm gonna make myself a little bit of black, just in the corner here. And talking about the raw umber, bit of ultramarine. Oh, that's fine. So I can add that into it as I go along. I'll make a grey. Some of that green to it. Oh, it's a bit too green. Let's see what that does. Yeah, darken it down on the inside of there. Keep that softer edge. When you get to the inside, it probably gets a little bit greener again. Where else can I see that colour? pretty much the same, just slightly lighter, slightly yellower down here. It's quite effective. I don't think this will take too long today. I think it's a fairly simple image I'm trying to make. Go even paler over the other side. That. Borrowing a bit of yesterday's green. Okay, that's going to come all the way around here.
When you take a class, and say it's the kind of first class of series that you're going to be doing, what's the first thing that you would focus on?
I'd explain what oil paint is, what pigment and oil, and there's a few things to elucidate about that, but not too much. And then we would look at the basic tools, brushes, palette knife, palette, and then we would go about setting out a palette. So, recognizing what colors we needed, and a good way of laying them out that's sort of reliable and repeatable and understandable. And then
when you say understandable, is that just so that the you as a person painting knows?
Yeah, you want to be able to go back to the same places every time. You see, I'm putting this color on the background right now, and it was too green, and I wanted to make it a bit pinker, and so I just wandered over here. The pink colors are going to be over in this direction, because that's where they go on my palette. For someone else,
do you lay your palette out the same every time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like having your piano stool the same height every time. You wouldn't want that to change all the way, and I think most people could understand why someone wouldn't want that to change dramatically.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're expecting something to be in a particular position and it's not, it's then really annoying.
And so you want to, if you think of where a drummer puts their cymbals, they don't want to have to look for it before they hit it. They want to put their hand out and for it to be where it goes, where at the end of their stick every single time, because that's how you play the drums. It's about movements. It's not, and so it's the same thing with the palette. You want it to be as instantaneous as possible, so you're not, if you're having to stop and search for something.
And do you do it in a way where it goes from sort of light to dark, or warm to cold, or
both? I don't know how much you're just making conversation and how much you're genuinely interested in it.
I am interested. It's because it's something that I have noticed, that on your palette every week it is the same sort of layout, and it can be completely different paintings. It can be completely different sort of subject matter, and you might skip on certain paints one week, but there's kind of like a noticeable gap then.
Yeah, well, if you really pay attention, sometimes I put a colour out and I won't use it. So I have it there on the palette, but I don't touch it. Yes, there's different ways of thinking about colour. And one way is the colour wheel, which I'm sure you're familiar with, which is how it goes through the rainbow. And another way is by tonal values. So yellows and oranges are light, and blues and purples are dark. And you can put those two things together. So if I follow my palette, it goes white into the yellows. If I get a bit of yellow in my white, it's probably not the end of the world. If it had blue next to it and a bit of blue got in the white, it would just wreck the white because it darkened it so much. So they're the next lightest colour, and they're also, you know, they're good. Yeah, so white and then into the yellows, and then through the oranges into the reds, and then from the reds through any purples into the blue, and then blue. Now we're all the way through the colour wheel, but we haven't done green yet. So blue into the green, and I'm using dark colour here for the green. It's a transparent colour. And then from the green back into the yellow. But now I'm at the dark end of the palette. I've got my dark yellow, which is my raw umber. And so I've come full circle around all the colours, but I've also gone through a tonal value from one side of the palette to the other. So my darker colours are going to sit over here, and my lighter colours are going to sit over here.
Okay.
And there's, you know, there's variations between them because you make little families of colour. So there's a little light blue there, which might belong more over here, but it sort of belongs with the blues. And the different colours emanate. So the oranges are going to be between the reds and the yellows. They're going to come out of here. The blues and the purples have come out of here. The greens out of here. And I'll put a black in this corner, and it's opposite. And yeah, that's generally the sort of the approach I take with it. But yeah, there's nothing very absolute about it. You can change things around. Sometimes people put, I've noticed some artists will put colours into groups that they like to use together. So they won't necessarily put two similar colours next to each other, because if they, you know, if they'll put alizarin with the transparent colours, and so they'll have a set of primaries in dark transparent colours and a set of primaries in light opaque colours, and you know, that's got a sense to it as well. It's a matter of what's the criteria by which you're looking for your next colour, your next tube of paint. Okay, this is, so I think I'm already starting to approach what I'm going to want next. That's not right. I'm going to make sort of a reddy purple colour over here. And I'm just going to use it for the slightest tint into some of these colours. That did almost nothing. No, it's not doing it at all. But it is all quite pale. And now I've already got some colour on the surface. There we are. That's going to go into the blue. Okay. So yes, I'm finding some interesting things. Now there's a blue, but it's also darker and greyer, a little bit greener. There's a little bit of that green from yesterday. And that's the colour I've already put down. I was right the first time. I don't think I have to worry about that too much. Same here. Maybe line those up. Then what does it do? Then we're into that brown again. No, that's not right. There we are. Who'd have thought it was that colour? So interesting. Okay, now I've got that, I can use it in places. A few darker shadows, maybe a bit under there. Yeah. Maybe a bit in here. I'd lighten that a bit, put it back with the green. So I'm into the realm of very subtle colour here. Not sure that's quite right. Might work for this. Might even work. Some of this writing. Yeah, it's yellower here, so I'll borrow a bit of that orange. Pop a bit of that in there. That's quite fun. And that's reflecting the colour from that orange below it. And that's going to happen here as well. But it's also going to get redder. I'm going to put a bit of actual orange in there. There you are. It's these little subtle things are going to make a difference. This is so interesting because I can see all this intensity of colour in the reflections, and yet it's all grayer than you think. Especially here. Even here. We talked about that before. Oh, how are we doing for time?
We are at 5 to 8.
A little light corner there. That's quite fun. Pop that in.
This is going to take shape quite quickly now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be too long now. I'm going to go back to that grey. I'm going to make a lighter version of it over here. Oh, maybe it stays there then, I don't know. And I'm going to make a few of these sort of darker shadow shapes, because this is going to allow the lights to do their work when they turn up, so I can be fairly generous with it. Yeah, a little bit darker even, just in a few places, just a little bit there, a little bit here, just that crease. Yeah, that's nice. Right. Yeah, so if I get this bag in, then it's really just the oranges and a few little details for the shadows, and that will do the job. I'm not sure about that. I'm fiddling now. Don't fiddle. Right, where was I? Oh, yes. Okay, so let's go for a few of these lighter bits for the paper. Get that shape in there. Put this down here. A little bit of that corner sticking out. A little bit of that highlight there. Do for some writing, won't it? So the next thing is the blues, really. So I'm going to go in with some of these paler blues and see what they do.
Based on the fact that you think it's going to be quite a quick finish, are you wanting a break this evening or not?
Yeah, I think it would be civilized, and I've got an exciting new time lapse to share with everybody, of course. Okay, my drawing is arguing with me a little bit now. Right, I'm going to go back to that darker colour and put that up here. There. I can come across. I'll have a bit here. Ah. So I'm going to come in with some extra lights in afterwards, but in the meantime, get a few of those sharp lines in. Yeah, so I can start turning the colour up a little bit now. Let's put some extra blue in. Be a bit more of that in there as well. If this goes too purpley, She's on the verge there. I might have to sort of mix another green colour, but how's that looking? Ah, that's right. What's going on there? I have a few little bits around the edge. Bing bong. I had some of that darker grey blue next to it. Sneak a bit of that in here. Yeah, that'll do it. So these subtle variations of tone and colour that come from this simple starting point. At the beginning, I just chucked some colour on as a sort of, like I say, as a ground, as a placeholder, as a sort of a way of seeing what colour needed to come next. And that, I'm going to be really cheeky here. Chuck in some really dense blue in that. And there's a bit there. There's a bit there. Yeah, quite fun to turn that colour up a bit. Need a bit extra in here. Is that going to have a little bit? A little bit. Nice. Am I fiddling?
Now's the time, isn't it?
Yeah. Now's a good time to have a little break. But the bag's kind of turning up. Yeah, I'm going to clean that brush so I can't fiddle with it anymore.
We will be back in, how long's the time lapse?
Oh, this one's about 6.5 minutes.
We'll be back.
And just as a reminder, while I did this painting, I was wearing evening dress.
Oh yes, you were, weren't you? Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Anyway, have fun.
Have fun. I'll see you shortly.
Back again. I've got a feeling I've forgotten which way around my gloves are.
You see a paint all on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what's happening. Although actually, there isn't any paint on them really, so I guess I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, once you've used them a few times, you can peel them off without having to make them inside out, which means I'm immediately confused as to whether they're the right way around or not. Yeah, it seems more like it. And also, they're thin enough and transparent enough that you can't tell which side the paint's on if there is paint on it. Yeah, so the only thing to do is to write on them, I think, with a Sharpie. And that way,
Yeah, you could do it like, I mean, you could do it on the thing and just put an L and an R.
Yeah.
And if it's the wrong way round, it's...
Right, back at it. Standing back, I'm realising that the proportion of blue and white isn't quite right here. I'm going to move that blue down a bit.
Would you mind switching the palette cam?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Switches itself off, doesn't it?
Ta-da.
Now I put that brush in to clean it, which I probably shouldn't have bothered with. There we go. Put a little bit of dark in there. Bring that down a bit. And go back to the light. Bring all of that down.
When you set up a composition like what you have done today, what is it that you're actually going for?
That is a very difficult thing to explain and quantify. I think if I could tell you, then I'd only think I knew. It's kind of a sort of a pure reaction, really. Sometimes you'd look and you'd go, well, that's not going to make a good picture, but somehow it just feels like it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's the thing I have to follow. It has to feel right. So, and there's so many different things that can contribute to whether a picture gets made or not. I'm not sure I could even quantify it or fathom it. I don't think it's something that even makes sense in and of itself. It's a bit of a nonsense act on its own, painting. Let's make a poor inferior copy of something. But there's a reason for doing it. Just the same as if you were to write a poem. Keats wrote his poem about a field of daffodils. Why not just have like the coordinates of where the field of daffodils says you need to go here? It's great. You make up your own mind. I'm not going to tell you what it felt like, but he can say what it felt like to him, and the sensation of what brought him there. And I think that's, that's the underneath all of that, there is this human desire to not be alone, to be in communication, meaningful communication with not just one another, but something beyond ourselves. Oh God, I'm getting all lyrical. I hope that makes sense in some way. But when we're making things, hopefully we're communicating with something beyond. And if we know what it is, then it isn't it. Does that make sense?
Sort of, yeah.
So it's following a feeling. It's something as simple as some colours and shapes, what's going on here. It's just interesting. And I have to approach it like the simple animal that I am, in the hope that by investigating it, it will reveal something to me that I didn't know before. Okay, so that's too little paint now. It's time for these oranges, and this is what it's been all about all along.
It's like clickbait you've done today, isn't it?
What do you mean?
It's all about the oranges, and you've left them for the last thing, so you have to watch all of the preceding stuff before you get to the oranges.
Yeah, I didn't do the American thing of talking for a couple of hours about where I bought the oranges, how much they were.
Like every good...
what a Satsuma is. Why it's different to a clementine. You shouldn't make that mistake.
So the kind of recipes of blogs that you find online?
I'm not sure I've ever looked for a recipe online, but do carry on.
Have you not? Oh,
no, I will have done probably once or twice.
It's always the same, that if you go onto sort of somebody's blog, it's then, a sort of 4-page...
Desperately trying to keep you there for as long as possible.
But yeah, it's like a 4-page article on, why her grandmother liked these particular... this particular recipe.
You just want to know how many ounces of butter is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, grams really, but,
All right, of course, yeah. See, when I it was my mother that taught me to cook, and that's really what put me off it. Yeah, I'm not. I can feed myself perfectly well. It's not like I've got absolutely no time for the whole sort of pathetic businessman who can't boil an egg kind of thing, who's relies on someone to do everything for him. But don't really have much imagination when it comes to food. That's my issue. I can't imagine flavors together. All I can do is actually make it and then find out if it's nice or not. And the failure rate makes it not worth it. I wonder if there's a similar kind of thing happening with the painting. I wonder how much I'm actually just experimenting and discovering rather than knowing something. I guess it's different because I can paint from memory, so. A different type of thing, but
I absolutely love cooking.
It does work.
And the thing is, like you say, it's about putting two flavors together and they're not working. It's not like, the way I see it is, it's not like that. It's more about the balance between the main five flavor bits that you got.
Yes, but my point is that you could be cooking something and go, oh, if I put this in, it would have this effect, right? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know until it happens. You know, I have to be reminded. There's some things I remember don't go together. Orange juice and toothpaste. I know not to combine those two, but rarely do either of them come up in recipes at all. So it's not particularly helpful.
No, that's more of a, I've just brushed my teeth and it's breakfast time, I'm going to have some orange juice.
Yeah. And you go, oh, what do I do? Okay, I'm straight into the bright orange here because I can always push it down again afterwards. But there's only a few places where this goes. The angle of the brush is getting flatter, so it's just laying it on. Get some of the sort of the patterns of the peel. There's even some directionality to some bits of it. It's all going to get paler and yellow over here, but I can keep going past that. It breaks up again. A little bit back there. I can go in the meantime before the paler yellow of it appears. We can break that edge a little bit. Now that's mixed in. Put a bit of that. Okay, now if I move back, some of these shapes, nice broken shape. I'm using a little bit more pressure so it mixes in with what's on the surface more. So it won't be quite as strong as what's in the foreground. Sort of running out here. Okay, so this red orange is definitely coming in here. That edge there. With the shadow underneath. Okay, what do I try next? No. Right, yes, let's go into that yellower one. We have that. And a little bit of this. Now I could go for a sort of a broader range of colours here. I could sneak in a few extras. Okay, hopefully that's starting to look a little bit sort of tangerine-like. Let's do the same thing over here as well. That's giving me my contrast back. Remember I was talking earlier about how the tone of the Satsuma and the bag were kind of the same, but they didn't want to be the same. One was clearly lighter than another. A bit of extra colour, a bit in here. Really subtle. I'm staying within the local colour of the objects themselves, not sort of going for a great deal of variety. Now I've got this green, which is here. I'm going to get some of that and mix it with the orange. I'm going to do some reflecting colour up from here. Maybe that's too much. Maybe it needs to be even greener than that. Let's pop a bit of that in. Where else can I see that? Nowhere really. A little bit here. A little bit there. Yeah, a reflecting colour. Oh. Okay. They are starting to appear here. I'm going to go back to my darker orange. Break up some of these bits. Take that back a bit. Same thing here. And here. Now I can get some extra red in. So I'm using a bit of magenta here. Give a bit of power back to my darks. Break some of those edges. And then I'm going to make it a bit duller for the ones behind. Not quite as red. You still get a sense of the same thing going on. Put this dark edge back on here. Yeah, put them one solid block. Same sort of thing here. But too much. No, I think that was okay. So these reds should really make those start to pop out now.
Josie's asked, why did you use magenta and not alizarin?
Because it was there. I could have used alizarin if I had put alizarin on the palette. I guess I'd gone for magenta for even more of a shift, to make it that bit more bluish, I guess. Yeah, so this red isn't traveling into the reflections at all. Maybe just a little bit into the shadows, but that's all. Yeah, sneak in, put some into that shape, a bit into here, just to make them hang together. I could pop a little bit into that shadow there, just to warm it up a bit. Is this doing what I want? Not quite, not quite. So there's that last bit, there's that orange and green. I'm going to take more of that orange, more of that green, and hope that these give a nice sort of reflecting colour back up from here. A little bit there, but not much. Okay. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on this, but we'll see, I guess. Maybe a bit too dark, isn't it? That's better. Use that. That works. That could be darker. Let's give that. Right, let me get another brush. Oh, there's one. That's a nice one. Okay, now I have a little bit of chrome orange here. Before I do that, I've got a nice highlight colour on this. With some of that greeny light. Something a bit less. The bright highlights will come in afterwards. And yeah, what am I on about it? Let's put some of these reflections in here. Let's lighten up some of these little corners. Where else? That needs a little bit of it. The soft edge and the hard edge. And this here. Not quite in the right place. Yeah, a bit more light into the foreground. It's quite fun. A bit more of a descriptive shape. Right. Well, I've got some of those lights on. Put some oranges into those. It makes it slightly greeny. I'll put some reflected colour. Is that too much? No, I think I'll get away with that. You put a little bit over here as well. A little bit there. Just sort of nice little highlight that just breaks up that edge. No, that was too much. Okay, a bit more yellow in that. Now we're getting into these brighter highlights. That's going to make it sit forward. Mm-hmm.
Starting to show up now, aren't they?
Yeah. And just a bit more of a highlight on that edge, and that's really going to create that contrast I was talking about earlier. Now the problem is the more light you add, the more it washes out the colour, and this is where the chrome orange comes in. I'm going to put that in a few places where it's kind of such an intense colour it almost acts as a highlight. Especially at the edges of those. What else needs a bit? That needs a bit. Okay, is that enough? More around there. Sneak a little bit into the reflections. And a little bit, that is much, just to carry it forwards. The last thing, give that a bit of a rinse, is the bright highlights. We'll go with the warm light. There we go. Yeah. A bit of a highlight on there. Okay, little things. Let's do some of that. Quite know what that's meant to be, but some guarantee of something. Some very dark blues in here. No, we've already done that. That was silly, because actually what I needed was some blue highlights. And to do that, I guess that's probably pretty much the last thing, is some of this highlight colour. And a bit of that blue. Yeah. No, not quite. Does that look like a bag?
I think it does.
I think so too. Fiddling. So stop fiddling is the answer to that. I think I'm going to sign this and call it done. Is there anything else? Oh, a few little things. Just need touching up. Let me drag some of that across here and put a little bit of light around the edge of this. It's a little bit broken. And a bit of it too. I'd say that's probably done the job. Is there anything else I've missed? Anything obvious?
Josie says very vibrant and fun.
Well, thank you very much, Josie. And yeah, I hope so. I'm going to sign that in the dark blue.
Oh, I thought you would have done orange.
No, see, the orange would be, it'd be too aggressive. Ta-da. Yeah, so they're looking really red on the camera in real life. From where I am, I'm seeing something a lot more balanced. So yeah, I'll just unplug this and hope that you can see the same thing I can. So we're getting close. My Satsumas. That's Satsuma. So a lot of dark there. Those shadows are quite fun. It's folded bag. Nice green shadow, lots of green in there, but you don't really see it when you stand back and look. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that.
Good.
I'll change my mind pretty quickly, I always do, but for the moment, see, I'm already seeing things. There you go. That's better. To make sure there's none of that left on my finger. Good. Well, thanks for joining, and I hope that was entertaining in some way. And this will be popping up pretty soon. But yeah, I have got a few things. I've got some little white frames which can also be a slip. So here's an example of one. And that, so that was a little row that
Nice.
I did. I was pleased with that. But these simple white frames are can also act as a slip when they go into a bigger frame, so that gives me some different options. So I'm going to be doing quite a few pictures in these sorts of standard sizes, these smaller sizes, and making some a more affordable range of work, so I can sort of finish off the whole range of different things that it's available for people to and ah about. It's all good fun. So I hope that's been fun. Oh, there you are. Thank you again to Graham for facilitating.
Hello.
And I hope the sound was good, and I hope the picture was good, and gradually trying to improve this. So maybe it'll show it to more than 30 people this week. Who knows? We'll see. But I don't care. I quite like the idea of having a little private group of 30. Yeah, which is pretty much what we've got.
Yeah.
So.